American author Edward Abbey once said that wilderness is not a luxury, but a necessity of the human spirit. Amazing vistas awaited us on our trip to Arizona in February 2025, and I must say that there's probably no better way to capture the grandeur than by drone.
So guess where this episode of History Hunters takes us? Oh, darn. You probably know already by the sign behind me. We're in Kingman, Arizona along historic Route 66. Important part of American history, and there's so many interesting buildings in this town, and I hope you'll stay tuned for this episode of History Hunters.
Kingman, Arizona is known as the heart of Route 66 because the mother road branches out to the east and west of the city. Therefore, Kingman is a top destination for Route 66 fans with museums, murals, and diners. The route was designated in 1926 as one of the first national highways. The 2,400-mile highway was designed to connect rural towns and cities rather than follow a direct route, benefiting farmers and businesses along its route. Portions of highways already built were incorporated into Route 66, which ran right through Kingman, making it a popular place for motor lodges.
So our first stop here in Kingman is at the St. John's United Methodist Church. It was built in 1917, but it's what happened here on March 29th, 1939 that drew some headlines across the country. It was on that day that Clark Gable, the actor, drove all the way from Hollywood over here to Kingman, Arizona, and in his car was actress Carole Lombard, and they eloped here and got married at this church. Didn't tell anybody. They did have two or three witnesses that were here that day.
Clark Gable and Carole Lombard met while acting opposite each other in the 1932 film No Man of Her Own.
It's time to go. We're closing. It's 9 o'clock.
What do you do with all the heart you bring?
At the time, Clark, then 31, was unhappily married to Houston socialite Maria Langham. Lombard, who was just 24, was in an unhappy marriage with actor William Powell of the Thin Man fame.
Clark Gable and Carole Lombard got their wedding license over there, and they walked over here, I understand, not proven, walked up these steps, and they got married as man and wife back in 1939. It was reported in the Kingman newspaper what happened here. The pastor of this church married them, and his wife was a witness as well as the high school principal. I don't believe there's any photographs that were taken of them at this church. However, when they arrived the next day, they were photographed at her house in Hollywood. But the bride and groom would have come down here, probably got in a car and went over to the Hotel Brunswick, and they had a wedding reception. This is some kind of sandstone. I think they call it tufa sandstone, but look at the rocks in this. These rocks could talk, huh? Yeah, it was a very hush-hush affair. I understand that the couple drove in from Hollywood, but they didn't inform any of their friends of their plans to get married here. She was wearing a gray flannel ensemble, and Clark Gable was wearing a blue suit. Now, apparently, the newspaper said that Gable told the pastor that he was going to spend the night in Oatman, which is not very far from here. But I think they reported too that the couple drove back to Hollywood, and they arrived there at about 3 in the morning, so they did not spend the night in Oatman. Now, when they went into the records division, I believe it was over there where the courthouse is, they surprised the clerk and they said they wanted a marriage license. And of course, the lady behind the counter knew exactly who they were. And here we go. This sign declares it's the National Register of Historic Places. St. John's United Methodist Church, built in 1917. Tufa stone. And mentions there, movie stars Clark Gable and Carole Lombard were married here, March 29th, 1939.
It appeared that Gable and Lombard were truly in love, but their joy as a couple would be short-lived. With the Japanese attack on Hawaii in late 1941, the United States was gearing up for war, and Carole Lombard flew to Indiana to promote the sale of war bonds at a rally there. She raised more than $2 million that night. Her TWA flight back home on January 16, 1942, stopped in Las Vegas to refuel. It was dark as the plane took off, and moments later it crashed into the side of a mountain. All 22 souls aboard perished, including Lombard, her mother, and 15 U.S. Army soldiers. Clark Gable was devastated and never fully recovered after her death.
So this is the north side of the building, and if you swing around here, you'll see this beautiful bluff of rock. Very beautiful town, I think.
The historic William G. Blakeley House, built in 1887, is one of the oldest houses in Kingman. Until 1920, this was the home of Mr. Blakeley, who was a miner, lawyer, probate judge, school board trustee, and pastor of St. John's Methodist Church. Blakeley was a 49er miner who came to Sonora, California and discovered the Eureka mine. He then later relocated to Nevada and Arizona. The Colonial Revival-style house was built of adobe and allegedly assembled elsewhere in northwest Arizona and transported to Kingman by railroad.
So I'm going to just walk a couple of blocks over to show you the Mohave County Courthouse. Dates back to about 1916. And fortunately for me, today is a Saturday, so there's no business going on, and the streets are very quiet. Over here is the city complex. It's kind of weird to see a brand new courthouse building next to a classic courthouse building.
The Mohave County Courthouse was built in 1914 and 1915 at a cost of $62,000 and is constructed of native stone cut from the Metcalf Quarry. The same stone is used in the other buildings of the same period. This courthouse was built in the neoclassical style. In front of the building, a statuary is a tribute to the locals who fought in the First World War.
Oh, this is pretty cool. They have a time capsule that they're going to open in the year 2115, and if I have any luck, by my calculations, I'd have to be 153 years old to watch this open. Don't think it's going to happen. Here's the old jail next door. It was like 1909, and I think they abandoned it because they said it was very easy to break out of. That's crazy, huh? Look at this. It is unlawful to communicate with prisoners without permission from the sheriff's department or sheriff's office. No wonder they got rid of it. Looks like it would be very easy to break out of. (1910). Metal floors in the jail cell area are unique features which cause jailers to call the cells natural light detectors. Now this is a very interesting building here. It's the Bunelli House.
This was the home of George Bunelli, who lived from 1869 to 1933, and his wife Effie Tarr, who was the daughter of the local Santa Fe Railroad station master. Their first home burned in 1915 due to an electrical short, so they built this home of tufa stone. They made sure there was an exit door from every room to the veranda. Passive air conditioning was provided by the cupola, which drafted hot desert air upward and out of the roof. The Bunellis had 9 children and operated 4 successful retail shops and a large ranch.
So this is one of the historical buildings that I wanted to show you, the Little Red Schoolhouse in Kingman, Arizona. It was built in 1896 and was Kingman's first school, and it remained in use as a school until 1928, and it is now used as a municipal court building. But the legendary character actor Andy Devine was a student at this school. Now, after it was closed, it was used as a meeting hall and an event center for groups such as the Christian Scientists and other civic organizations. During World War II, it was used for the ration board office, and it served as a Chamber of Commerce office and is now the municipal court. Very interesting building. I'm glad it's still standing. Think of little Andy Devine attending school here.
The Oddfellows building, which stands at 208 North 5th Street in Kingman, was built in 1912. This was the second fraternal organization clubhouse in Kingman. The old Trails garage seen here dates back to 1915. It was built by J.W. Thompson. The first occupant was a Mr. Wagner, who operated the original Old Trails garage on South Front Street, now Topeka Street. It is one of the oldest remaining auto shops in Kingman and retains an unaltered facade appearance. The garage was affiliated with numerous car franchises, including Buick, Cadillac, LaSalle, and Mack Trucks. The building between the Brunswick Hotel and the garage was built in 1912 by J.W. Thompson and was originally the Arizona Stores Company, a general mercantile that specialized in mining supplies, Navajo rugs, and Native American crafts. A few years after the garage opened, it was modified and for several decades was used to support the garage. It is now Garibaldi's Italian Cuisine. For a short time after its construction, this was the tallest building between Albuquerque and San Bernardino, California. It is the 1909 Hotel Brunswick, one of the first 3-story buildings in the area. Reportedly, this is where actor Clark Gable and his wife Carole Lombard had a wedding reception right after their wedding. The 50-room hotel was built by business partners John Mulligan and J.W. Thompson. Apparently, the two partners had a falling out over the affections of one woman, which led them to split the use of the hotel right down the middle with a wall. Apparently, the two sides of the hotel thrived and remained divided until the 1960s. The owner of the Thompson side bought the Mulligan side too. That owner, Joe Otera, took down the wall and closed the upper floors where the hotel rooms were and just operated the restaurant on the main floor. Being close to the train depot, it was a favorite place to stay for many early travelers. In 2012, the hotel was purchased by a man who restored the hotel to the early 1900s ambiance, furnishings, and decor. Sandwiched between the historic Beale and Brunswick hotels is the Henry Lovin Building. It was built in 1906 to replace a building that was previously destroyed by fire. The first tenant of the building was A. P. Jones Palace Saloon, which opened on October 2, 1906. With its stone walls and concrete floor, the building has stood its ground for over 100 years, pretty much unaltered except for the entry door. This building, the Hotel Beale, was built in 1899. It's built of concrete, brick, and masonry after the original hotels of Kingman were destroyed in a fire the previous year. In 1906, Thomas Devine, father of character actor Andy Devine, bought the hotel and extensively remodeled it in 1916. He added the 3-story addition at the rear, as seen here, and modernized the facade in 1917. Besides the young actor Andy Devine, who grew up here, Buster Keaton and his crew were guests during the filming of Go West in 1925. Aviator Charles Lindbergh was a frequent guest here during construction of the Kingman Air Terminal. Amelia Earhart was a guest during the opening ceremony for the terminal. The city of Kingman is proud of its association with Andy Devine, who was raised here. A portion of Route 66 through town is named after the movie and TV star who lived from 1905 to 1977. This is a portrait that I saw of Devine that was hanging in the Dam Bar restaurant when I ate lunch there in 2010. Andy Devine was born in Flagstaff, Arizona in 1905, and his family moved to Kingman when he was just a year old. An accident claimed his father's leg as a railroad employee, and he received a settlement which he used to buy the Beale Hotel. Andy even worked here as a child. A large active boy, he suffered numerous broken bones growing up. It is said that his raspy voice was the result of a fall with a stick in his mouth which permanently damaged his vocal cords. For almost a year, Andy was unable to speak at all. I found this article in the Mohave County Miner newspaper mentioning his recovery from the surgery. He left Kingman to attend college and played football at St. Mary and St. Benedict College, Arizona State Teachers College, and the Santa Clara University in California. In 1926, he moved to Hollywood with dreams of becoming an actor, and he found several bit parts in silent films. He then appeared in his first talkie as Truck McCall in 1931's The Spirit of Notre Dame.
How many movies did you make, Andy?
Honey, from the silence to the TV today, it's pretty close to 400.
After being introduced by Will Rogers, he married his wife Dorothy in 1933. Concerned that his raspy voice would limit his success in talkie films, it instead became his signature. He appeared in 9 Roy Rogers films as Cookie Bullfinch, but he's probably best remembered for his role as Jingles P. Jones on the TV series The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, which ran from 1951 to 1956.
Kids, it's Andy's Gang!
As host of the TV show Andy's Gang that ran from 1955 to 1960, he shamelessly plugged the sale of Buster Brown shoes, his sponsor.
But there's only one kind of shoe for me. Good old Buster Brown shoes! Boy, have I got a different kind of a story today. The name of it is The Tiger Shark.
It's kind of hard to imagine a generation of kids that would settle for being entertained by a story reading.
It's what the audiences today want compared to what the audiences of say, my era wanted, you know?
He continued acting in movies, TV, stage, and he provided cartoon voiceovers until his death from leukemia in 1977. Kingman's early existence depended on the railroad. This was the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad Depot, which was built in 1907 in the Mission Revival style of concrete and stucco. I like how they've done this. This is a picture of how this corner looked back in the 60s, and look at it today. The Kingman JCPenney store, seen here in this 1940s photo, was significantly remodeled with a distinctively 1950s facade. It is now home to an event center called Beale Celebrations. Seeing how Kingman has a Cracker Barrel, Sarah and I had dinner there one night, and she tried her hand at playing peg solitaire.
Missed it all, didn't I? Running out of... That's it? 4.
That's not good.
It's not good at all.
No, it's not good.
Just a short 30-minute drive away rises the Walapai Mountains, some 3,600 feet higher than Kingman. We decided to head up there and have some lunch at the Walapai Mountain Resort. More than an hour later, we were back down the mountain to Kingman and then off to Valentine, where Sarah booked a tour of the Keepers of the Wild Nature Park. She wanted to see some of the big cats at the center, and we found out that many of them were rescued from Joe's Exotic Collection based in Oklahoma. In an isolated part of the Walapai Reservation off of Route 66, a cluster of abandoned buildings and a little over 30 people make up the tiny unincorporated town of Valentine, Arizona. In 1898, the small community came into existence when the U.S. government set aside 660 acres of land for Native Americans in what is now recognized as Mohave County. In 1901, construction began on the Truxtun Training School, a boarding school for Native American children, in alignment with the broader U.S. Indian policy of forced assimilation. The school, which was meant to separate Walapai children from their cultures and families, and acted as a day school, and as a longer-term boarding school for the Apache, Havasupai, Hopi, Mohave, Navajo, and Papago children. After its opening in 1903, kids spent half their time in academic classes and half their time in learning trade skills. Girls would practice homemaking and boys would learn things like shoemaking, blacksmithing, or farming. These schools were meant to be as self-sufficient as possible, so students did a majority of the labor required to maintain the building, in addition to their classes. Diseases like measles, the flu, and tuberculosis were common. After almost a decade of having a school and post office, the town was officially named Valentine in 1910. The town was named after Robert G. Valentine, the U.S. Commissioner of Indian Affairs from 1909 through 1912. And curiously, the National Old Trails Highway, which was the precursor to Route 66, was also built in 1910. As the town expanded, a school for white children was built in 1924 and was referred to as the Red Schoolhouse. The Indian school was simultaneously under construction, being expanded by its own students using bricks that they made. The Truxtun Training School was eventually closed in 1937 after another Walapai Day School opened in a nearby town, which led to the demolition of many of the old buildings. Farther down the highway is this service station in rural Valentine, which was built in 1945. It also included an adjoining motor court. Reportedly, actors Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper engaged in a fight here in a dispute over a filming location for their 1969 movie, Easy Rider. The station was converted into a half museum and half home, which is occupied by Ruben Rodardi, who has his own YouTube channel. The building is made of brick with stucco overlaying it. To add some 1950s ambiance to the station, he has parked a 1957 Ford Fairlane out in front. By the way, don't expect to fill up here because his pumps aren't working. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of History Hunters and our visit to Kingman, and we'll close out with some photos of some more historical buildings that we weren't able to get to. Thank you so much for watching.
Gable and his actress wife, Carole Lombard, got married right here. This was the first United, I think, Episcopal Methodist. I'm in Kingman, Arizona today, and I'm going to show you some interesting things about Route 66 So on our first stop here of Kingman, I'm going to show you. So on our first stop here in Kingman, I'm going to show you this church, St. John's. What is it? It was built in 1917 as St. John's United Methodist. Actor Clark Gable drove all the way from Hollywood here with a woman in the car. She was actress. So it was on that day. It was on. Come down here, probably got in the car and went over to the Hotel Brunswick. Went over to the Hotel Brunswick, and went over to the Hotel Brunswick, and they had a wedding reception. And Sarah's in the car, making fun of me along the way.